Thanks a ton for coming back. And you'll see that I have a much more fancy and professional looking banner on the bottom of my screen now. So you actually know who I am and what's going on. So. So like these are like, this girl's like another character I designed for like a completely different project, and for her I really want to do something like historical, so I just kind of went online and looked up a lot of photos. Hi Becca! And I just kind of did like studies of them and like what I like about them and how they fit together and things like that. But I'm also kind of looking for things like in this one, like I really just tried to prioritize like flow and proportion. So for this particular character, like she has really long hair and everything about her is very slender and long. So I'll do like dozens and dozens of drawings like this. And let me see if I have other photos of her saved. Maybe like this one, you know, or they're just like me trying out like a whole bunch of different ideas. And at this stage, I'm not even really worried about anatomy at all, or any structure. It's really just about the idea, and yeah, I just do like iterations on iterations on iterations until I find something that I like. And then there's a lot of refinement. Yeah, this is like her like finished design, basically. She's like very clean and broken down. But if you have like a more specific question, I can answer that too, because this is just a very like vague overview of my character design process. Doing the DreamWorks face. That's like a really old meme. I don't think anyone even knows what like the DreamWorks face is anymore, because they don't really do it anymore. But oh yeah, sure. I can definitely talk about my coloring process. I can even show you this exact drawing and and the layers I did on it. Okay. So this is like, here's like the full picture. It's like the cover actually. I just like cut them out. And usually I don't do this exact coloring process, but that's kind of, I felt like it's what I wanted to do for this project for, because it's like a more streamlined approach. And let me break everything down. So let me just hide the background completely, so it's not distracting. This is like the line art. And okay, let me even get rid of the highlights first. So I think to begin with, I just started out with, I have their colors already in like a swatch on the bottom left corner. I don't know if you can see that. And yeah, I also, I painted this in Clip Studio, but I did double check the colors in Photoshop first to make sure it's CMYK compatible. But you can already see, like, this isn't exactly their color palette, because I did do some like color balance shifting on it, which is something that I like to do. And before I start, I always like to have the background be at least like a solid color that's really similar to the final one. So I think of this, I literally just started with a purple like that. So so if I had just used their colors straight from like their color palette, like I'll even show you. Oh no, I think this is actually their straight up color palettes that aren't edited. Damn. Okay. Alright, okay, yeah, I threw a gradient map on it, that's why. So, yeah, I don't know if you guys are familiar with gradient maps, but they're kind of a huge game changer. Oh yeah, and I put one on here too. And if anyone wants me to explain gradient maps, I can too, but there's something I only learned about kind of recently. And, oh, my cat is here. Mommy! Yeah, so the gradient map in particular is like a layer. You do new correction layer and it's gradient map, and it will literally like map out these colors based on like the gradient, based on values. So see how I can like, you know, it can already start to like set like a particular mood and color temperature for them. So for this one, I use their sunset one because I really like it already, and like this is already like very like, I could just like some artists just like literally would just throw this on and be like, alright, that's my cover, you know. Or even if you like, usually at 100% it's a little too much, but if you put it down to like, you know, halfway or 1/4, it looks really nice already. Like, I feel like, you know, if I didn't want to do extra work, or actually probably for like the comic itself, I'll probably just end up like most of my panels will probably look like this with a little bit of a highlight on it. But yeah, and then for, alright, this layer is literally just to define his nose and nothing else. For my shadow, I just have a multiply layer, and usually I'll just pick a random color, and usually I will open up like the hue, saturation, luminosity, and I'll just slide it around until I find something I like. And I'll play around with like the saturation, the lightness, you know. So you can get all sorts of cool effects here this way. I think I accidentally touched something, but okay, whatever. And then for them, I also did a tiny bit of like subsurface. That's like kind of just more advanced, but I put a little bit of like this orange glow around the highlight, only on their skin, so you can see like it does like add a little bit of like this warm look. And that's like actually a term that's like really popular in 3D, subsurface scattering. It's like if you shine a light through like a gummy bear, the gummy bear will turn this like nice like neon color. That's like basically what subsurface scattering is. Remember your gummy bears. And then I'll just do like this like highlight layer just for the hair, an overall highlight layer. So this is also just like an overlay layer, you know. And I also do the same thing where I just like open up the, you know, and then just like slide it around until I find like a color I like. Some of these are kind of cool too, like they're lit by blue light instead. It's kind of neat. And for this, because I want to be extra and it's like the cover, I have like some low lights too, which is like some like light bouncing off the purple grass onto them. So let me see if I have my grass layer. Here we go. Oh my god, it looks so funky without all the proper... Yeah. Oh my. Okay. Yeah, so this is like all the light bouncing back up from it. This is a little bit messed up, but it's okay. Yep. Alright. That's not showing on my final, is it? No, I don't think so. Yeah, and I also have like, you know, put like a little highlight to top it off. But you know, you see like, you know, with all the corrections on, now the highlight looks the right color, but if I were to like turn off all of those, it looks really weird. It looks really dark on him. So it's all about relationships to each other with the stuff. But yeah. Yeah, I started using these kind of filters more recently. I can also show you, I'm just gonna close this. I did a bunch of like cover mock-ups too. Should be able to open this in Clip Studio Paint. Yeah, well, spoilers, not really, I mean, here, oh my god, I have some like unfinished drawings, but yeah, this is like the original, like color, like cover mock-up, like it's like so rough, like, look at this, it's like barely anything there, but it's just for me to decide the overall color palette I want to use. These are some like really crazy dramatic covers for later, spoilers. But yeah, there's some like, you know, fun things like that, and I really wanted to just play around with using really different color palettes, because I kind of tend to stick to like one or two at a time depending on what I'm comfortable with. This is like the ending one, I guess. Yeah. Here, I can like try to use this panel because I ended up not doing anything with it. And like I was trying to play around with some of these effects, but I found it a little bit cheesy. So what I often do is, let me see where the options are for here. It should go here. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I'm still like not 100% familiar with let's see, effects. Sorry, I just know how to hit like hotkeys, and then I don't remember where the actual thing is. Okay, well let's just do like a color balance layer. So for something like this, I mean it helps that their natural color palette is already a little bit earth toned, but I would often just like to begin with, is just, here, let me make sure that this is set properly. Is like, I'll just like slide all of the colors like to be a little bit, like closer to, like more harmonious with the background. So this is not a great example because it's changing the background at the same time, so I will just drag them all inside. And I probably won't end up using like this color in particular. I probably will go with something a little more like this color. But and this is also like, I mean, I would probably even say this is a little too much. I would probably knock it down maybe to halfway. But you can see like it already looks a little bit more like if they're in a different lighting. And then just from there you kind of will compare everything to the background. So for them, their multiply layers, I wanted to use like a warmer shadow. And I also just like did the usual thing where I just like slid around until I found something that matched. And in general, your shadow color usually does kind of reflect the overall environment, because you're having light, like the color of the shadow is determined by like without any sort of like bounce light. This, I'm like talking very like technical terms now, and I also studied CG, so let me know if I'm getting like too detailed. But when something is like light is hitting something and there's nothing, like there's no like a bounce light or anything, like the shadow would be just plain black. But that's not really how reality works, because light usually bounces and scatters. So your shadow is often influenced by like the color of your environment, because that's what stuff is bouncing off of. And like the most common example is like if you go outside and it's really sunny, and you look at something that's lit in like direct sunlight, sometimes like the top of the object will have like a light like blue glow to it because it's taking in the color of the sky. And then like sometimes like in the shadow you'll get like a golden color from like either like from the sun bouncing off the sidewalk or something. Or if you're in the grass, you might get like a nice like green glow underneath everything because the sun is hitting the grass and bouncing up. And I can actually link a YouTube video that explains this a lot better than me, so let me go look for that right now because it's really helpful. Hello, Sublime. Is there any creators that have inspired you over the years? So I did go over this a little bit yesterday, but mostly I think a lot of like manga artists. So I've mentioned that I think one of my biggest influences is probably honestly just like Ken Sugimori and like how all the characters in Pokemon are drawn. I've like actually changed art styles so many times over years, and I just still always end up going back to like this kind of art style because it's so simple and so expressive, and that's like what I really like in art, is like expressive art. Some of my other influences are Akira Himekawa, which is just like the pseudonym for like the two women who draw all the Zelda mangas. And not a lot of people are aware that there's a Zelda manga, or a Pokemon manga for that matter. Which, speaking of which, the Pokemon manga is also illustrated. The first couple of chapters was this artist named Mato, I think, who like does the cutest like super simple expressive stuff. I mean, it's very like Akira Toriyama era, and like very similar to Toriyama style too. And also really like Hiromu Arakawa, who did SMA. Oh my god, so many of them have like similar names for some reason. And in terms of like non-Japanese artists, I really love Gendy Tartakovsky's work, who did like Samurai Jack and Cinematic Titan. I'm just like obsessed with his work, but I just love that like Gendy's work is always really fresh because he's inspired by so much stuff that's not like animation. He watches like a lot of films and stuff, and I think like so much like to stand out in like animation and comics, like you gotta make sure that your influences aren't only other media. But yeah, so those are my favorites. Joaquin, damn, I'm sorry that you can't get a visa. I know it can be, international travel can be bullshit sometimes. Trust me, my family is Chinese and I need to get a visa if I want to visit my grandparents and stuff, and it's always a huge pain to do. And like, well, I remember my family was just like that my entire childhood. Like every time we visited my family, we'd have to get a visa. And then when I became older, like I realized like, what? Not everybody has to get a visa to travel abroad. Like it's just because our family's Chinese and the government hates China. Damn. And yes, I watched Primal. It is amazing. We were really lucky. We got to see it in like they screened it in like a indie theater, and it was like super cool. It was like an awesome experience watching that on a big screen with like surround sound. Are they friends or a couple? Haha, you'll have to read to find out. No, I'm just kidding. They're friends in this panel, I'll just say that. They're friends in all of the drawings of them so far. But, that doesn't mean they'll stay that way. Oh, thank you. I think like the funnest part about working on this is like working on your own project in general, is that at one point you're like, wow, like this is like, it's like, wow, this is tailored for me because I made it. So you get to put like all of your favorite tropes and all your favorite, like, you know, things in it. So, and at some point you're just like, wow, this is good stuff. I balance growing as an artist and writer at the same time. Do you want to focus? Okay, you want to focus only on one skill at a time? Or do both? So I actually found it was a lot easier to improve as an artist once I started this project, because when I was in like art school, I was very much like, oh, I gotta get good at everything because I need a job. So I was very like scatterbrained, so I was like, I need to get good at drawing backgrounds and trees, and I gotta learn how to draw robots and old people, like, because I just like thought I had to be good at drawing everything. And then I realized that that's not true at all, and that, you know, if Hollywood needs a person to design robots, they'll probably hire someone who is obsessed with robots and draws nothing else but robots. I know that's like a very random example, but like typically like people like to hire people who are specialized in a thing or like an expert in something. So it's like it can be very hard to decide on something. And once I was like, oh, I really want to make a comic, suddenly it was like a lot easier to decide what I had to get better at. So in the beginning, I had a really hard time drawing these characters, and it made me realize like, oh, my anatomy is actually not as good as I thought it was. Like there's a lot of things I really don't understand how to draw on like in like a character. So I actually like, you know, took some like figure drawing and like anatomy classes for a bit and worked really hard on that. And it was easy to know that like by spending time on that, I was like basically directly benefiting my comic too. Like my comic is going to look better because of that. And then once I felt more comfortable with how I was drawing people, I was like, okay, the next really important thing for me is to learn how to draw backgrounds, because I'm still like really bad at drawing backgrounds. So I made that like my focus like regularly for like every single day for like a few months. I would just like do background studies. I'd draw forests, I'd draw like trees. And I'm still like at that point where I'm like, where I'm still like practicing how to draw backgrounds, but like, you know, it's not as much of a mystery as it used to be. But like, you know, by having a goal, like, it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about learning how to draw everything now. Like, I only need to worry about getting really good at drawing the things that I need for my comic. And I've gotten a lot better as an artist just from focusing instead of trying to jump around and get good at everything at the same time. And like, and the good thing is like you can consider that like study time as also like work, like time that goes directly into your comic too. I mean, I kind of said that indirectly before, but like sometimes it's hard to like justify putting time into like doing studies, but having it directly relate to your project can help a lot. Here we go. Yeah, like this is like how I format my script. See how I have all my pages on the side? So each page like corresponds to a page in the document, and I have like the panels labeled. And I actually like describe what happens too. A lot of like comic artists like don't go this detailed, like they don't format their work this much. A lot of times it'll just be more like you know, like it'll be more like page 1. Hey, what's up? You know, it's like not much. A walks over and sits down. You know, like a lot of comic scripts like look like this, and it's like totally fine when you're the only one working on it, you know, because that information is just for you. So, but for me, it really helped me to break it down panel by panel and page by page, because like I said, like it was really important for me to be able to estimate how many pages that I think the story will be, so I know how long I'll be working on it for. So yeah. Yeah, like something I recommend is every chapter having like a mini arc. So like something should like start and end, or like a problem should be resolved or something. I find that's like the most satisfying. I don't think it necessarily has to be like that when you're uploading, for example, episodes on Webtoon or something. I think you can break it down to be much shorter than that, just based on how quick you can work. Because like I think like on average like my chapters are like 10 or 11 pages long or something, but I think like Webtoon pages, like when you compare them to like traditional comic pages, I think the episodes tend to be more like 4, 5, 6 pages long. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of like, you can get away with chapters that short. I mean, some webtoons like only upload like 1 or 2 pages a week, and that is even fine. Like people still read and enjoy them, and it doesn't really hurt the comic much, because that's just like the fastest they can physically draw the pages. Rob Gale, can you speak a bit about your process for designing characters and environments before you actually start drawing pages? Yeah, I only just started drawing pages very recently. The backgrounds, I feel like most of my backgrounds are just like in the forest, so I feel like you can kind of be a little lazy and just draw random trees in every panel, and they don't have to have any that much consistency as long as they're the same like type of tree, you know, like as long as they're the same like species, or you know, the foliage type, you're kind of in the same environment, you're good to go. But I did spend a lot of time doing studies, and let me see if I can find some examples. Yeah, Rob Gale, I don't know if you were in yesterday's stream, but I was working on like a turnaround. So yeah, I didn't finish it, but this is like a turnaround I was working on for my main character. And I also have like a turnaround of my other character too. So yeah, hers looks better though. And yeah, I spent a lot of time developing these characters' designs too. They went through like a lot of huge changes. I can even show you like the very first drawing I did of them like a couple years ago. Or not a couple years ago, it was only 1 year ago. This is like my drawing of them from like a year ago, so a lot of things, like they're pretty similar overall, but a lot of things about them already changed. Like their proportions are a little more adult looking now, and their anatomy is a lot better. And I did like I would do like a lot of like draw overs about things I didn't like about their designs. I went through that a lot with like Neil, like figuring out his hair, because I didn't understand how to draw his hair at first, so I really had to like sit down and like look at photos on like Pinterest of like similar hairstyles and like break down like how I should draw his hair. And now I don't have issues with that anymore, but before it was such a giant question mark. And like I even did like specifically for him, because I have so much more trouble drawing him, I did like a whole page where I like drew over older drawings of him and like took so many notes on like, you know, things that I thought I could improve on, you know. And sorry I keep like closing it onto this like weird tree photo. Sorry if I'm like going through too fast too. I get a little nervous showing some of this older work sometimes. And for backgrounds, I have this like huge Pinterest board that I can show you guys too. I'll just like share my browser really quickly. It's a secret board, so okay, here we go. So yeah, I have like so many like spoilers in here. Wah! But yeah, I have like a whole board that's just like, oh, wrong one, of just like backgrounds, like of how I want to draw the background. And there's this Russian artist named Ivan Bilibin who I am obsessed with. His art is so freaking beautiful that it makes me want to scream, like, look at this. But I really like how simply he draws foliage. So I did a ton of drawings based on his drawings, and then I would try to draw his I would try to like take draw photos that I took using his art style. So that's kind of what I'm basing his art style on. And there's another artist a lot of people reference called Hiroshi Yoshida, and I really like the way he draws clouds and mountains. So I'm also using him as like my inspiration, and a lot of people in animation like Hiroshi Yoshida's work. And I also really like AJ Kassan's work. So this is like, yeah, this is one of his works. This is not super dramatic. Yeah, like this is how AJ Kassan, he's like a Canadian artist, like this is how he stylizes like trees, which is like so cool looking. It's very like animation-y looking, and like this is like more of his work. It's so cool. So I basically, cause you know it's so easy, like when you, at least for me, like when I go outside and I take pictures of the woods and I look at the photo later, it all just looks like chaos. And I had so much trouble doing photo studies when I was younger, like, or less experienced. Like it was just like looking at white noise. So looking at these artists and seeing how they simplify it really helped me, because I feel like with things like trees and foliage and natural environments, like you cannot just draw exactly what you see, like, or you'll just spend like your whole life drawing every single leaf on a tree, you know. You have to like simplify it. So that's actually like an example of like when it's good to study other artists and see how they chose to simplify. And yeah, actually I'll show you another board, which is like color palette. These are like some artists, some of these are like photos, but these are some artists like NCYF. I love his color palettes. They're just like so gorgeous. So I looked a lot at like these kinds of older artists that have very like soft unified color palettes, and how they portray different lighting conditions. Yeah, and I like this is like cool because you can see like the background is also simplified. It's not super detailed. Yeah, you definitely improve a lot just through pure repetition of drawing like the same thing over and over again. But also like when you do a comic, you're forced to draw things that you might not normally draw. So because it's important for the story. So like let's pretend like I don't know you're terrible at drawing animals or something, but like you want to draw a comic where someone has like a pet dog or something, like you're gonna have to learn how to draw dogs then. And even if you're really bad at drawing dogs, like drawing a dog in every single panel over a comic is gonna you're eventually gonna get really good at drawing dogs. And like I don't know, same goes for a lot of things. Like I used to be like have a really hard time I think of posing and stuff, but like when you're drawing a comic, you have to draw characters being very like dynamic and doing a lot of things. Unless it's like you're just doing like a 4 coma or something where your characters are just talking heads. But if you're doing a comic that's more like traditional, even like a really simple comic would involve people like walking around, talking, I mean, something that was really cool when I was working on my other comic, Banana in Beijing, which I can pull up some of it right now. It was like I had a panel where I had to draw a bunch of like detailed Asian food, and I'd never drawn any of that before, like ever. But I really enjoyed it, and it made me realize like, wow, like this is my first time drawing something, and it came out really nice. Like it really made me less afraid of drawing new things, because I was like, hey, if this thing that I've never drawn before looks really good, like maybe other things I draw look good too. And like, yeah, this is like my comic page from my autobio comic. So there's this like grilled fish and mooncake and a zongzi, which is like a rice triangle thing, and they're little silkworms eating mulberry leaves. And yeah, like I had no idea like if I'd be able to draw any of these things, but when I sat down, I did, and I was like, wow, like I'm not afraid of drawing unknown things anymore. Now I'm excited because I get to see like, I don't know, I get to see whether or not I'm capable of it. And it's like very, it's just like super rewarding. It just makes me really happy as an artist, to like expand your horizons and realize that like you're capable of a lot more than you think. Okay, coming from an immigrant family and held in under certain expectations after choosing career path in art. How freeing you said to pursue your career in art. Yeah, so this is like something I do have some trouble like answering sometimes, because my family was not like a typical Asian family. My mom, like, or my grandpa is actually like he was like an artist. He was an oil painter and like a college professor. So my mom always knew that there were like a lot of careers in the arts, and she really respected the arts, and she was very supportive of me ever since I was really young to like pursue drawing and stuff like that. You know, and like when I was young, she like bought me like a tablet and like stuff like that, you know, like very nice of her. Yeah, I was like surprised that like my dad is like pretty supportive overall too, but I think like he knows that I'm not like a person who like takes huge risks. You know, like out of nowhere, so like he does ask to check in how I'm doing, but like when I tell him like, oh yeah, I'm like doing a show, or I'm like selling copies of my book, he's like, oh wow, that sounds pretty cool, you know. So he usually like kind of leaves me alone after that. Also, to be clear, I'm not drawing like a super detailed background like to be extra. I like am pretty inexperienced at drawing backgrounds, so I haven't really learned how to properly simplify yet, so don't be like freaked out. It's just me not knowing how to draw things simply. I think as as this comic goes on and I get tired and my wrists get sore, I'll chill out. Lefty, how did you settle on a story to go with for your comics and stick with it? I'd like to get into comics, but aside from short stories, I worry wouldn't stick with anything long term, and does anyone look at it or look over your work as you go? But yeah, to answer Lefty's question, well, first of all, short stories is actually a lot more helpful in like the short term. Like if you just want to practice like getting good at like drawing comics in general. And like a short story can honestly still take a lot of time to finish. Like I definitely found that like I can spend like my last comic was like a short story, and it still took me like quite a while to finish it. So like I wouldn't say that like doing like a short story is bad at all. In terms of like something long-term, I'm only doing a long-term project because the story is long and needs a lot of time to do it. But even then, I tried really hard to like trim down this comic to be as like short as like possible, like, and to have it be told in like the minimal amount of pages possible, because I didn't want to spend too much time on it. And even at the length that it is, it'll still probably take me like freaking a year to finish or something at least. So I'm in it for the long haul, I guess. But in general, like, people tell you that like comics generally take like 3 times longer than you expect, so just be like aware of that. For this story, it was just like an idea that I had for like a really long time and always really wanted to make into something. So that's kind of like the reason why I'm making it, is just because like I was very attached to the story itself. Oh my god, look at this crazy background. Whew. That's a lot of detail to add later. Goodness. I did a lot of work today, I guess. Okay. I forgot the trail's too clean. This is the trail's supposed to have trash on it. So let me just add some like right now. Or at least I'll just like sketch it so I like remember. It's like a beautiful ruined trail. It's like a huge bottle. This is like... There we go. Yeah, some sad littering. I'm littering my beautiful trail right now. I don't know if that looks like too fake and cheesy. Alright, whatever. I'll think about it later. I need to like look up what an actual littered trail looks like. But you know, the thing is, like, having hiked to a lot of littered trails myself, and the whole reason I'm putting something like this in here to begin with is because, like, you don't really notice that unless if you look at the floor, you know? It's not, like, very obvious. But yeah, I'm gonna have to look at some reference, so I'm just gonna write a note to self. Add some litter. Yeah. I like drew this beautiful for a scene and then I'm like, okay, time to ruin it. I'm gonna call it a day, and thank you so much for visiting my stream. I was actually planning on waiting on coloring, on doing any coloring until tomorrow's stream, so I don't even know what I'm gonna do tomorrow yet. I might just finish this page. So yeah. I don't normally use so many layers, but when you're using this kind of like line art style, like, I just end up with a lot of layers. But yeah, I'm gonna call it a night. Thanks so much for coming again, and we'll If any of you guys are coming tomorrow, then I'll see you guys tomorrow. If not, it was awesome to meet everybody. Thanks for being cool and being very nice and friendly in the chat and asking me cool questions. So, yeah, good night, guys. Bye.